everybody, welcome to the Let's Talk Q&A show. This is the weekly show where I'll answer all of your burning questions. So no matter what you guys wanted to ask me, I make sure to answer all those questions on this show each and every single week. So let's dive right into them. And the first one's from Kevin Kruger, and he asks, what are the top 10 most disappointing movies you saw in theaters? So I made a list of this. This isn't really in any necessary order. A lot of these movies I had high expectations for. Some I had less expectations for, and they still let me down. So right at the top of the list is a more recent one, and this movie just, oh my god, it shit the bed so bad. That movie is Morbius, and I really have felt like the Sony, alternate Spider-Man universe movies, they've really missed for me. Even the Venom movies, I know people love the Venom movies. The third one's coming out pretty soon. I've enjoyed 1 and 2, but they really are the best of those spin-off movies. Everything else has just been Madam Web has just been god awful. And Morbius, I still think is the worst of them. I went into that movie hoping for the best. I've always felt like Jared Leto gets a bad rep. A lot of people really turned on him with his Joker performance, as well as they should. It was terrible. But still, I was excited for it. Jared Leto is an Academy Award winning actor, and Morbius is just god awful. Next up, I got Ang Lee's Hulk, and this is one I've definitely come around on, but when I saw this movie in theaters, I was a little bit younger. I don't remember what I was, 13 or 14 years old. I was excited to see this movie in theaters. It came around the time when, superhero movies were really on the rise. We had the Spider-Man movies from Sam Raimi, so I was super excited to see this one. You'll notice a lot of superhero movies on this list. I am a big fan of superhero comic book films. I know not everybody is, but I've always enjoyed them. So I used to see pretty much all of them in theaters. I still kind of do, just because of that hope, even though we've kind of gotten them all watered down. I just stopped watching the TV shows. But the movies, I still will go see just because I have that hope there. And, Hulk, I was like, oh my god, we're getting a Hulk movie. It looked great. Ang Lee's a great director. I didn't really know him at the time, but still really excited for it. And it bored me to tears. Now, again, this is one that's come around for me, but still, back in the time, I remember leaving that theater that movie sucked. It's another one, Ant-Man and Quantumania. This is the third movie, and that's now completely useless because of everything that's happened with Jonathan Majors since this movie came out. But even seeing this movie in theaters, this is the definition of bad CGI. And I don't want to blame the people who worked on the movie, because if you go back and hear about it, these workers were just pretty much abused and working crazy hours, not paid a fair rate. So not going to blame the people who worked on this movie. We'll blame Marvel for, making these guys crunch when they really shouldn't have to. They should really have ample amount of time. Delay the movie, because if you put a movie out like this that looks this bad, I would be embarrassed, because this is your product. And there's plenty of bad CGI floating around out there in Hollywood nowadays. And this is just a shining example of horrible CGI. And the next one I have is Dumb and Dumber 2. Dumb and Dumber is my favorite comedy of all time. We had a sequel, Dumb and Dumber, well, actually it was a prequel, and we didn't bring back Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey. I actually thought it was all right. It's not great, but I thought it was all right. So then when we finally get the cast back together for Dumb and Dumber 2, 20 years later, we're getting Jeff Daniels, Jim Carrey, we're getting the Farley brothers back. I couldn't wait to see it. I was there day one, and I hated this movie. It really is so bad. When a movie is so bad that it makes you rethink your fandom of the original movie, it recontextualizes the original Dumb and Dumber. So I just have to pretend that Dumb and Dumber 2 doesn't exist, because I really hate that movie. Again, I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters, but that was just a horrible. That would probably be my number one, if I'm being honest. Next one is Halloween Ends. I haven't gone back and watched this one since I saw it in theaters. I really, really should, because I know people do like this movie. It was just kind of that shock of seeing what I was seeing in theaters. It just was not the movie I was expecting to see. Huge letdown for me. The father-son story that they really wanted to go for with Michael and Corey. Oh my god, that's just not the movie I was expecting. He's got his mask, Michael's got his mask. I'm going to show you how to kill, really take you under my wing. And then we finally got what we really were expecting, this big pay-per-view fight between Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers, Laurie versus Michael. That's what we were there for. And then we got it at the very end. And I just felt like the first two movies in this trilogy, the first one's really good, 2018. Halloween Kills gets a bad rep. I know people didn't like that movie. I really like Halloween Kills. That's one I watch every spooky season. Halloween Ends, I would just left that theater just shooken at how bad it was. And another one, Batman vs. Superman. Now, I know a lot of people like this one and like the director's cut. I just personally think that this movie again is a huge letdown. Right behind me is Ben Affleck's Batman. Ben Affleck is not the problem in this movie. I know a lot of people are upset that he was killing. None of that stuff bothers me. I don't get caught up in that. I'm a film fan first. I love Batman. He's one of my favorite characters in film history, you know, in animated film history. But I'm not the biggest like comic book reader, so I'm not somebody who goes into these like Batman's got to have certain rules. No, I go into these movies. I don't, you know, I want to see what the movie presents to me. If this Batman fits in this universe, that is more than fine. Ben Affleck does a good job with Batman. It's just everything else around this movie, you know, it just does not work for me. The Martha stuff is ridiculously stupid. The director's cut is better, but still, in my theater experience, that's not the version I saw, and I was very let down. The next one's Get Hard. Now, Will Ferrell, one of my favorite comedians of all time. This was him teaming up with Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart, I think, is a great stand-up comedian. I think he's a much better stand-up comedian than he is an actual actor. He's fine, but like the two ride-along movies, they were forgettable. I saw both in theaters. I've seen a lot of Kevin Hart movies in theaters, and I just find them all to be forgettable. And Get Hard was the same thing, and the hype was there. Like, if you watch Kevin Hart interview Will Ferrell, I don't know what his talk show is that he has on Netflix. Like, it's great. They have great chemistry. You could tell they're buddies, but the movie Get Hard just did not work for me, and I was so excited for it. And then the next one is Envy. Speaking of a team up between comedians I really liked at a younger age, you know, you had Jack Black and Ben Stiller. I saw this movie in theaters. My whole family went and saw it. It just wasn't that funny. Next one, Iron Man 2. You know, came out in the early stages. This is still a Phase 1 Marvel movie. And I really feel like Iron Man started out Phase 1 really high, and then the rest of Phase 1 is kind of average, except for the first Avenger, which I think is a great movie, but the rest of it, the original Thor, not that great. The Incredible Hulk, very forgettable. But everything else in there, everything else in Phase 1 is like, it's fine, but Iron Man 2, I think, is a bad movie. I actually still think that that and the second Thor movie are the two worst ones in there. And coming off the original Iron Man, you know how excited I was for this one? And Mickey Rourke, people just wanted to put him in movies. What the fuck was he doing with that accent? The best part of that movie is Sam Rockwell. And then number 10, the last one on the list, The Rise of Skywalker. I love The Force Awakens. My third favorite Star Wars movie. The Last Jedi, I don't hate it as much as other people. I still think it's a very well-made movie by Rian Johnson. You know, they made some decisions in there that I don't necessarily agree with, you know, as a Star Wars fan, but I still thought the movie was fine. You know, I was excited because I saw The Force Awakens 3 times in theaters. I was like, I'm going to see The Last Jedi 3 times in theaters. I saw it once, I was like, and I think I've seen it twice since. And again, very well made. The problem is when we get to The Rise of Skywalker, we bring back J.J. Abrams to basically fix everything that was done in The Last Jedi. And that movie is just so bad, The Rise of Skywalker. You know, we bring back the Emperor. We have to redeem Kylo Ren. You know, all these things that people, I guess, wanted to see. And I was just like, this is terrible. It's the only Star Wars movie I don't own on 4K Blu-ray or on Blu-ray. Don't want it in my collection. Just don't want to see that movie again. I despise that movie. And it's crazy because I actually tell you a little story about going to see that movie. My wife, Faith, we were going to see that movie in Dolby Theaters one night. And she got sick. We actually had to end up going to the hospital. So, you know, she was fine. We went, actually, the next day, we were able to get tickets for an IMAX showing. I saw a preview for Tenet there. And I thought, wow, I can't wait to see Tenet. That's the most memorable thing about going to see The Rise of Skywalker, is seeing that opening scene to Tenet in theaters. Everything else sucked that day. But anyway, that's the top 10 most disappointing films for me that I saw in theaters. That was a great question, Kevin. Thank you, buddy. Next one's from our channel director, Mr. Smelly Potato, and he wrote, are you going to see Nosferatu on Christmas Day? Nosferatu, directed by Robert Eggers. Yeah, I will be seeing this on Christmas Day. Hopefully, you know, it's really up to my wife if she'll let me go see it on Christmas Day. You know, after everything's over, I'm off of work that day. I used to, you know, have to work Christmas night. Maybe now I can go see Nosferatu, as long as I get permission from the old ball and chain. I'm just kidding. I'm sure she'll let me. Maybe she'll even come with me, because Robert Eggers, you know, he's 3 for 3 for me. I feel like his 2 best movies still are The Original Witch, and then my favorite is The Lighthouse. I love The Lighthouse. And then The Northman, it's fine. I enjoyed it. I still love the craftsmanship from Robert Eggers, and so I cannot wait for Nosferatu. I definitely will be seeing that. If not on opening day, the next day. Do you think there's a Bigfoot? I used to think there was a Bigfoot. The only thing is now, in 2024, with all this technology, if we haven't found Bigfoot yet, I don't know if there is a Bigfoot. And then, do you think aliens have been to Earth? Now, this I do think is true. I believe in aliens. I truly believe that the solar system is just too big for there not to be other living creatures out there living on other planets. You know, it does make you feel really small living here on Earth, but I truly do believe that. Now, I think that aliens probably visited Earth, sure, to see what we got here. But if aliens really ever wanted to invade Earth, it would really just to take all of our resources and leave. I don't think they're going to come here and hang out. That's just my true belief. I don't think that's what they would do. So when like people hear about UFOs and stuff like that, yeah, I believe in UFOs, but I don't know if they're looking to like come and have like full contact. Like when I hear about all those people being taken up in spaceships, I don't know how true that is, because I just feel like at this point, I think the U.S. government, at least for the U.S. government, has come out and said that, yeah, we have seen UFOs. And it kind of just came and went, because I think most people kind of expect aliens to exist. So have they ever been to Earth? Sure, I think they have been here. Do they blend in and look like humans? That I don't know. Aliens being on Earth would definitely explain a lot. They live pointed that out. So that's a great question, Mr. Smelly Potato. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. I appreciate the outside the box questions. That's a lot of fun. And the next one is from our buddy Sprazy110, and we talked a little bit about this on the Monday live stream. But he said, "Do you know how long Scream Factory keeps producing slipcovers for their releases? Just be curious because I plan on buying a lot from the Shocktober sale." So yeah, if you're buying from the Shocktober sale and their older releases, more than likely you won't get a slipcover on there. Sometimes you get lucky if they just have extras lying around. I believe what the guarantee was, I remember this from my cousin Matt, is 90 days. 90 days after release, they guarantee you a slipcover, if I'm correct. I know on their website they actually count down how many slipcovers they have left, but people have said that that's not very accurate. For me personally, again, when it comes to packaging with steelbooks and slipcovers, I'm not somebody who gets caught up in that. Like, I like having the slipcover. I would prefer to have the slipcover, but it's not something that'll make or break for me. I know I've actually given slipcovers away to people who really care about them more than me. For me, it's always going to be about the disc on the inside over what the packaging looks like. I prefer there to be the most beautiful packaging ever, like the Arrow Video Collector sets. Like, that's something different. But if it means I don't get a slipcover, but I can get something with a great deal, I would always take that over running out and spending the extra money. But other people are different, and that's the thing. Everybody is different with how they, curate their collections or how they feel about slipcovers and steelbooks. That's what makes us all different individuals, and that's more than okay. Me personally, it's not something that I have to run out there and make sure I have. If I don't get a slipcover, it's not going to hurt me. Would I prefer it? Absolutely. And Sprazy's next questions is, Sprazy110's next question is, are there any movies in your collection you never intend to watch again but keep anyway? So for the most part, those are going to be franchise movies. I got two right here that I grabbed. The only Batman movie I haven't upgraded to 4K Blu-ray is in this collection right here, and that's Batman and Robin. I see no reason to upgrade that to 4K Blu-ray. I have no intention of ever watching that again. I reviewed that here a long time on the channel with Matt. We were kind of going through all of the Batman movies, and we got it to Batman and Robin, and that was the first time I had rewatched that movie in years. I think I even said in that video, God willing, that was the last time I have to watch Batman and Robin. And I saw that movie in theaters in 1997, and as a kid, I did like Batman and Robin because, obviously, we're the target audience, but that movie is stupid as hell. I mean, he fucking drives a motorcycle through the wall, and then behind him, it forms a Batman logo. So there's no seriousness or logic in that movie. It's just ridiculous. It was there to sell toys. I bought the toys, but still, there's no reason for it. So I have Batman and Robin in my collection just because I want to complete the Batman collection, but I don't have it on 4K Blu-ray. And it's the same thing with the Child's Play movies. Like, I have Seed of Chucky in this. I will never watch Seed of Chucky again. I won't upgrade the 4K Blu-ray, but I do have Seed of Chucky in this nice collection right here with, the Curse of Chucky and everything like that. There was another collection of this that came out the year after that I think it's either had Cult of Chucky. I always get mixed up with Cult and Curse of Chucky. I don't remember which one came first, but that collection only has one of them, which, I mean, I'm an idiot. I could just look right here and see which one it is. Curse of Chucky. So Cult of Chucky is the one that's missing, and they released a new collection a year later that looked like, a good guy box that actually featured that one in there as well. And then now, over in Region B, you can buy all of them except for the first Child's Play movie on 4K Blu-ray. In the United States, we have them separated where you could buy them all individually on 4K Blu-ray. So the Chucky franchise is kind of all over the place where as far as the distribution rights of the 4K Blu-rays go. And, over in the UK, I think they got the better packaging, in my opinion. And then I have other movies in my collection, like, obviously like the fourth Indiana Jones movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That movie's probably one I won't watch again unless I'm really like forced to. The fourth movie in the Superman franchise. I own that movie, but more than likely, I have no intention of ever watching that one again. I know people who have to watch the entire franchise when they're watching a movie. I don't need to do that. I could skip around. I have a pretty good memory, so if I saw a movie, I don't necessarily need to go back to it. Now, there are movies like A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. I was just, I never loved that movie, but I rewatched it, and there's a lot of good in it. I always like the pool scene. You're, oh, my children now. I think there's a lot more that movie is trying to say that I kind of just wrote off. And overall, it's probably one of the better ones in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise because, you get Dream Warriors, the original. I think those are both great. New Nightmare is good. But then you have movies like 4, which is just, I hate 4. And 5, it's fun. And Freddy's Dead, I enjoy, even though I know it's not a great movie. But I always gave 2 a hard time, and maybe I shouldn't have done that. But that was a great question, Sprazy. Thank you so much, buddy. And the next question is from Spider-Man, and he wrote, can you do a 4K Blu-ray review of the Friends box set? So maybe down the line I will do that, Spider-Man. I know you also asked me to do the Bourne movies, and I will do those in November, or November, December. And I'm also planning to review the Harry Potter 4K Blu-ray collection. I don't know it yet, but I'm probably going to grab it sometime in November when it drops in price. Then I'll review the movies here on the channel, see how those 4K Blu-rays hold up. My wife's a huge fan of the Harry Potter franchise. She watches those movies like 3 times a year. It's sickening, but I do like those movies a lot myself. So, once a year is good enough for me. I really do enjoy that franchise. I don't enjoy the movies after the Harry Potter movies, but I do enjoy, the Fantastic Beasts movies. I thought those movies were bad, but the original Harry Potter movies, they're all good in their own way. So eventually I'll do those and the Bourne movies here on the channel. But as far as the Friends box set goes, I'll pick that up eventually. I'm not the world's biggest Friends fan. I used to watch that movie, used to watch that show with my mom, and, we used to watch it every single week until the show ended in, I think, 2004. So I've always had that connection with my mom, but when I go back and watch it, I do feel like the show's a bit dated. It's very cliche, very 1990s. It's just that sitcoms were different back then, and, you find continuity errors. So when you rewatch it, you're really just there for the nostalgia, but I don't have the biggest nostalgic connection to that. But eventually, I would like to get that on 4K Blu-ray, and then I will review here on the channel when that day finally does come, Spider-Man. So that's a great question. Thank you so much. And then the final question this week is from Kevin Kruger, and he wrote, what are your top 5 Quentin Tarantino movie lines and top 5 Quentin Tarantino characters? Well, you guys know that Quentin Tarantino is my favorite director of all time. So, of course, I have to talk about Quentin Tarantino here, and I could not wait to do it. So this is a great question. My favorite character of all time as far as, Tarantino movies goes. We're going to have to... My 1 and 2 are from my second favorite movie ever, which is Pulp Fiction, which I forgot to mention on tomorrow's show, which you guys will see, Let's Talk Physical Media, that there is a 30th anniversary 4K Blu-ray box set coming out. And that's just going to include the old Pulp Fiction 4K Blu-ray that we talked about when it came out in 2022. And no new extras. So it's just really fancy packaging. Really trying to get the fans of the movie to come out. And you guys heard me earlier. Packaging is not going to necessarily be enough for me to upgrade. Despite how much I love Pulp Fiction, there's nothing really new, no new extras. So there's probably no reason for me to get that. It's probably overpriced. But still, it's really cool that they are doing that. Just wish you would have gave something, just a little bit more there. But my favorite 2 characters, they're the 2 characters we open up on in Pulp Fiction, and that's Vincent and Jules, played by Samuel Jackson and John Travolta. I love these 2 characters. Jules is my number 1 if I had to pick a number 1, but Vincent's not that far behind. This is Samuel Jackson's best role. For me, it is definitely John Travolta's best role. I know people would say like Saturday Night Fever or Grease. I also really love him in Blowout. But, I mean, not only did this role save his career, but he is perfectly cast in this movie. So I have to go with Vincent and Jules. And then right behind them, Reservoir Dogs, Mr. White, played by Harvey Keitel, or Larry, because, he does tell Mr. Orange his name. And then he obviously spills it to Mr. Pink as well. But Harvey Keitel had a lot of faith in that movie. He's perfectly cast in that movie. He's the perfect Mr. White. This is like really during his career resurgence. This came out the same year as Bad Lieutenant, which I think is his best performance. But if you're going to ask me what movie he's the best in, I mean, what movie is the best of his, the most enjoyable, I'm always going to say Reservoir Dogs just because I'm a huge fan of that movie. But I mean, Harvey Keitel, he really had a resurgence in the 1990s. And I think a lot of that probably started with Reservoir Dogs. I don't remember if he did something in 19... Like, what year was The Piano? I know he's in that. He's always naked in his movies. He's naked in The Piano. He's naked in Bad Lieutenant. Guy loves to hang dong. Number 4, I got Dr. King Schultz.
If you insist.
This actually won an Academy Award for Christoph Waltz. The second Academy Award he won for playing in a Quentin Tarantino movie. He also won it for Inglourious Basterds. Now, he plays a villain in that movie. In this movie, he plays a hero. He plays these characters pretty similar. It's just he's a lot more likable in Django Unchained than he was, in my opinion, in Inglourious Basterds. And I always felt like Django Unchained is a better movie. I know people who love Inglourious Basterds, but it's never been one of my favorite Tarantino movies. But, I like all Quentin Tarantino movies, so... it's kind of like a catch-22 thing. I'm saying that's one of my least favorite, but it's still like an 8 out of 10 movie. And, Christoph Waltz won 2 Academy Awards, and I think people were expecting a lot more from him. And, he's put out some other great performances, but nothing, in my opinion, is the same as when he plays Dr. Schultz in this movie. And, I just love him in this movie. Very quotable. The scene with the marshal and the sheriff early in the movie when he's with Django and... he gets the beer. Christoph Waltz plays that character perfectly. And then the last one, I got the bride from Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, played by Uma Thurman. Perfectly cast as usual. This actually hurt Quentin Tarantino and her relationship because he asked her to do a stunt with a car, which you could look up online. And she felt uncomfortable doing it, but he kind of pressured her into doing it, and it really hurt their relationship, which is unfortunate because Tarantino would always say that Uma Thurman was his muse. So, unfortunately, Tarantino, for all he is, I love the guy, but, sometimes he can be a little rough around the edges. He asks a lot of his actors, and sometimes I feel like he just, he goes a little bit too far. He has admitted the guilt in that situation, though. So that's my favorite characters. Now, what about my favorite lines? So, number 1, I got Ezekiel 25:17. Obviously, that's, what leads right into, early in the movie, we hear him do this twice. We hear him at the second time explaining why he says this, but the first time we see him doing it is right before he kills somebody, and it's done so well.
You will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
But you could take everything from the opening segment. My second favorite line is when, and it's funny, I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, but early in the movie where Vincent and Samuel Jackson are in the car, and Vincent's talking about how he used to be, how he just got back from Amsterdam, and he's talking about the metric system, and what do you call a quarter pounder with cheese in Amsterdam? Well, you call it a Royale with cheese. So I always love that, a Royale with cheese. But you can also talk about the Big Kahuna burger. That's the Hawaiian joint, ain't it? My girlfriend's a vegetarian, which kind of makes me a vegetarian too. That is one tasty beverage. Everything in that opening scene I could just quote from that movie. So I try to stay a little bit away from that. Then again, going back to Django Unchained, and we got Mr. Candy here, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and we get the scene where, gentlemen, you had my curiosity, now you have my attention. So that's a great line as well. Leo is awesome in that movie. Next up's from Jackie Brown, again from Samuel L. Jackson. He's got the gun to his head and he's like,
my ass may be dumb, but I ain't no dumbass.
Again, Jackie Brown is probably his most underrated movie just because it came out after Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. It's the third one in his LA trilogy before he really started with these fantasy movies. From that point on, we really, until Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is why I think a lot of people, including myself, say that's a return to form for Tarantino. He kind of stopped playing around with history and went back to Los Angeles. But Jackie Brown, he was doing that too, and he does a fantastic job in Jackie Brown, Samuel Jackson, and that line is the best of them. But, I found out about the Delphonics from that movie just like, what's his name did. And then the last one I have is from the end of Inglourious Basterds, and it's from Brad Pitt, and he wrote, I just think this might be my masterpiece. Now, he's saying that to a character in the movie, but really it's Quentin Tarantino saying that Inglourious Basterds might be the best movie that he ever made. And at the time, people loved this movie. This movie came out, I believe, my senior year in high school, and I remember a lot of friends of mine who really weren't the biggest film fans loving this movie. And I, at the time, was already a big Quentin Tarantino fan. I saw the movie and I was like, it's really good. I like this movie a lot. But to say that this is his masterpiece after he's made movies like Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, which I do think are masterpieces, it's kind of hard to say that this movie is, but I get what Quentin Tarantino was thinking. Everything really finally came together. You got to kill Hitler. You get a great cast. It's very well done. It has some great scenes in that movie. I just have always felt like it's just a notch below what I think are his masterpieces. But the line itself, perfect way to end a movie, so don't really have too much bad things to say about that. But guys, that's going to do it here for me on another episode of the Let's Talk Q&A show. Now, if you guys could ask me some questions in the comment section below, I would really appreciate that. I have to record next week's show a little bit earlier in the week, most likely on Tuesday. I'm going to record this show and Let's Talk Physical Media on Wednesday. I am going away next week for a few days, so I'm not going to be able to record some new stuff, so I'm just still trying to get some stuff together for you guys so that it doesn't feel like I missed any videos. You guys should still get the usual same 5 videos next week. They just are going to be, you know, filmed a little bit earlier in the week, so if I miss some stuff on the news or maybe I don't answer a question that you guys asked after Tuesday, I really do apologize for that, but I'm hoping that it doesn't feel like any of the stuff that you guys watch here on the channel gets interrupted. It feels like the regular scheduled programming that you usually get. That's my goal, at least, so hopefully you guys do understand. And thank you guys all for watching this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could, and we also have channel memberships. If you want to become a friend of the channel or a channel producer like John Doe Juggalo and Jason Martin, or a channel director like Mr. Smelly Potato and Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, you can look for all of that information in the description below. But if you got no money to throw away, guys, please don't worry about it at all. We just hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.